Good morning and welcome to NYC TV Live. I'm Trinity Chavez and today is April 24th and we are coming to you high above the trading floor at the New York Stock Exchange. And while this iconic institution plays host to IPOs, anniversaries, and landscape-altering news from the more than 2,400 companies that are listed here at the NYSE, we also celebrate notable accomplishments. And this morning, the UConn men's basketball team will ring the opening bell, opening up the U.S. equity markets to celebrate winning the national championship earlier this month. But this isn't the first time that the Huskies have celebrated in this fashion. In fact, they were just here last year. Let's take a look.
When I started as a president, my slogan was student first, UConn always, Huskies forever. You are here because you are Huskies and you are with us forever.
We're here at the New York Stock Exchange because when you're bullish on the UConn Huskies, you're bullish on Connecticut, and that means an awful lot to us.
You can only get that fifth national championship if you have incredible support. Without the support of the great governor and the president here, and obviously an unbelievable coaching staff. We think we have a team that we're going to return that put us back in position to compete for it again. Can't wait to kind of get back to work, but this is awesome to be here. Really, it's like it's a thrill, so thank you.
Now head coach Dan Hurley lived up to his word. Not only did he bring back a team that would compete again, they dominated. The Huskies became the sixth team in the NCAA tournament history to win all 6 of its games by double digits. They outscored their opponents by a combined 140 points, and that's the most ever. In fact, UConn didn't trail the second half of any of its games during the tournament. UConn won each of the 6 NCAA tournament games by 13 points, making them the second team in men's Division I history to accomplish this feat. The first, also UConn, just last year. The Huskies became the first men's team to pull off back-to-back championship in nearly 2 decades. In fact, only 4 programs have accomplished this feat in the past 60 years. The Florida Gators did it back in 2006 and 2007. The Duke Blue Devils did it in 1991 and 1992. And the UCAA Bruins won 9 titles in a 10-year stretch from 1964 to 1973. UConn's men's basketball team has become college basketball's latest budding dynasty, but success isn't a new program. The Huskies have won 6 championships in just the past 26 seasons. That puts UConn in a tie for 3rd most titles all time. Only UCLA and Kentucky have won more men's Division I basketball championships with 11 and 8 respectfully. Joining me now is Matt Norlander, CBS Sports senior writer who has been covering college basketball for the network for the past 14 seasons. Good morning.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you. So let's start by jumping in on this topic. So UConn has won back-to-back titles, winning all 12 of its NCAA tournament games over the past 2 years by at least 13 points. Where do you rank this team amongst the all-time best?
Well, this specific team, I think ranks among the 10 to 15 best teams I think we've ever seen. And that's backed up by the fact that what you just mentioned, this season, this tournament, they won by a combined 140 points over 6 games, which is a record. No team has ever won 6 NCAA tournament games by that wide of a margin. And when you consider what this group did after last year's team, like together, UConn as a program right now is going through really one of the best runs we've seen in 45, 50 years, basically since John Wooden at UCLA. But for this team to come back after losing 5 of its top 8 scorers from a year ago and be even better, get a #1 overall seed. Last year's team that won the title was a #4 seed and then had an amazing tournament run. This team showed little sign of ever not being incredibly awesome. And so I think it is fair to say, even though it did not have a superstar player, it had a very, very, very good starting 5. And I think you're going to see a lot of those guys in the NBA for a long time. The data is in. What we saw was undeniable. Dan Hurley coached, in my opinion, one of the 10 to 15 best teams that we have seen since the 70s.
All right, Matt, I'm actually getting word right now that we might have to cut our conversation a little bit short because we're going to have to toss to the boardroom for more of our live coverage. But we will continue this conversation in just a few minutes. But right now, we're about 15 seconds out from the boardroom here on the 6th floor of this iconic building, where we have over a dozen rooms that we host some really memorable events. And I'm going to actually throw it to my colleagues over there for more of our live coverage. We'll be right back.
Morning, everyone. I'm Chris Taylor, Global Head of Advisory here at the NYSC. I'm also a native of the state of Connecticut and an alumnus of the University of Connecticut. Woo! And on behalf of all of my colleagues, it is my pleasure to welcome back the University of Connecticut Huskies, the 2024 NCAA Men's National Basketball Champions. Welcome. Hard to believe a year has passed and we're back here in this room to celebrate yet another national championship. I would like to call out a few of the dignitaries here today. Ned Lamont, the 89th governor of Connecticut. Governor, whenever I see you in this building, I know something great has happened for the state of Connecticut. So welcome back. Great to have you. Dan Toscano, chairman of the Board of Trustees of the University of Connecticut. I don't know a person who commits more of his time to making UConn a greater place than Dan. And Dan, I'm sorry to report, you are now my second most favorite Bristol native. A guy named Donovan Clingan has surpassed you. So sorry about that, Dan. Of course, Dr. Radenka Merrick, welcome back to the Exchange, the president of UConn. You just exude passion for this university. And I don't think it's any coincidence that this university continues to climb the ranks of higher education public universities, and more than 50,000 applicants to the University of Connecticut this year, a record for the University of Connecticut. Thank you for all the work. All right, a shout out to three other gentlemen, Coach Tom Moore, Coach Luke Murray, Coach Kamani Young. A gentleman in this room has said you are the best coaching staff in the country. We all agree. Thank you. And last but certainly not least, the 2024 Naismith Head Coach of the Year, Dan Hurley. Dan, welcome back. Great to have you. All right, so I need to recap the season real quickly. It is truly an incredible season. It started in November at MSG, winning the Empire Classic. It went on to the grind of the Big East regular season, just 2 losses in the regular season to win the 11th conference regular season championship for the University of Connecticut. We went back to MSG, won our 8th Big East tournament title, an amazing stretch regular season Big East tournament, not easy to do. And then we went the road that Coach Hurley was talking about all year, Brooklyn to Boston to Glendale, to bring home our 6th national championship and the first back-to-back championships since 2007. Incredible. Now, everybody talks about the wins, and it's easy to isolate great champions and what they've done. But I think all of us in this room are huge Husky fans, and UConn Husky basketball is appointment TV. It's 2 hours of a weeknight or a weekend that we carve out and we will not miss. And I just want to say, from all of the fans to the coaching staff, to your players, to the administration, thank you, because you guys never mailed it in once this season. And I've never seen a team that was so committed to playing basketball the right way. It's a pure joy to watch this team play. 5 selfless players playing as a team, constant ball movement, constant player movement. A lot of people don't like UConn, by the way, just an FYI. That comes along with winning. And when I talk to those people, the one thing they say is, you guys play basketball the right way. And it truly is amazing. There were many times in this season where you could have taken a night off, maybe a schedule loss, as they call it, a road game against Butler at night during the week. It's an easy one to take off. The most notable one was the last game of the regular season against our New England rival, Providence College, on a Saturday night, a very boisterous crowd at the old Providence Civic Center. The regular season championship was locked up. And I'm like, maybe they'll take a night off and give a W to Providence, who really needs one, to try to make the tournament. So the game starts. We fall behind by like 15 points instantly. I've got a lot of friends from my text group going, I'm like, this game's over. They're mailing it in. I don't blame them. Let's move on to the tournament. It didn't happen. This team came back, took a double-digit lead, and just blew them out of the building. They never took a night off. So I commend the coach. Well, there is one exception. There is one exception. First round of the NCAA tournament, last minute of the first half, up by about 40 points against Stetson. And I saw 2 defensive possessions that were subpar, Coach, and you called them out at halftime. So thank you very much. No, truly an incredible season, one that will not be forgotten. And it's really important for all of us to take it in and enjoy success. So we love celebrating great champions here at the New York Stock Exchange. We know only one way to do that, and that's by ringing the opening bell at the NYC. So I'd like to call up 4 folks to the stage: Governor Lamont, Dan Toscano, Chairman of the Board, President Merrick, and of course, Head Coach Dan Hurley. Come on up. All right, so we have a lot of traditions here at the Exchange. Of course, ringing the bell is the most notable one, but we also provide medallions to our bell ringers and notable guests. So I'd like to provide all of you with a medallion, and I'm suggesting a trade: 4 medallions for 1 national championship. What do you think?
We got extra.
Rebecca, for you. Governor Lamont, welcome back. Great to have you. Dan, thank you. Great to see you again, as always. And Coach Hurley, add this to your collection of hard work. All right, congratulations. Let's get together for a photo. Yeah.
Thank God for iPhones. This is my coin collection right here. It's chocolate. It's chocolate. That's right.
Governor, would you like to start with a few words?
I like coming back to the New York Stock Exchange when they say, good to see you again, Governor, and I'll be free next year at this time as well. I didn't have to work as hard as the coach and the players, but one hell of a fan, I got to tell you. And there's nothing like sitting with the family of the UConn Huskies. It's the amazing alumni. It was Andrea and your family. You know, when this guy gets mad as hell, she gets mad as hell. When he's walking on air, she's walking on air. You really feel the passion. That's what I love about college sports. That's what I love about the UConn Huskies. And I'll tell you, the pride our state feels in the Huskies. We don't have a lot of professional. We love the Huskies. When you win, we feel like winners. More people coming to the state, more people staying in the state. Thank you for everything you do, Coach.
Good morning, everybody. I'm least equipped to be up here and have done the least for that trophy, but I just want to welcome everybody first and foremost. Are there any students in the room by any chance? They're studying. Finals coming up. How about alums? All right. So I just want to say to you, thank you for coming here. Thank you for supporting not only this men's basketball program, our entire athletics complex, 21 sports, over 600 student athletes. They work their asses off in the classroom and on their fields of competition. And if you're a donor to UConn, I have a special thank you for every single one of you. You know the budget challenges that every university has, so we're not unique in that regard. And we really count on our supporters, our alums, our partners, sponsors, to help us fund the cost of doing something like this. It's a lot of work, and you see it in the face of our student athletes and our coaches and staff every day. But without all the support from our donors, it wouldn't be possible. So I'd just like to thank you all for that. And when we ask you for more money, please say yes.
I'm not going to ask you for more money, but I'm going to acknowledge all our students, athletes who work so hard, and unfortunately they are not with us, but they are in the classroom because we want to give them degree. But they really deserve the round of applause from everybody in this room. So. We are a great university. As a great university, we want to excel in all things that we do. And without Dan, Hurley, Gino, we will not be excellent in athletics. We all need support. Dan, no pressure, but Andrea, put the pressure on him. We want to be back, and we want this to be tradition. Thank you all.
I just can't believe you people aren't happy with back-to-back, right? Like, back-to-back didn't do it for you. Just obviously the resources that we get to be able to perform and really strive for all the championships and run the program at the level that we do, without the support of the Prez and Gov and Dan Toscano and obviously Dave Benedict and his staff. They just give us everything we need to be, the best in the sport. And right now, UConn, the basketball program is the best program in college basketball. And right now, it doesn't feel like it's that close. The way we dominated the tournament. Is there media? Oh man, that was off the record. I didn't know there was media. I'm going to make more fans. But obviously my wife Andrea over there, she's my coach, and she coaches me up every day. And then I do have the best staff in the country, just with Kamani and Luke and Tom. Just the continuity and the excellence of the people I have around me, it just attracts the right type of players. And our brand of basketball that we're playing right now, it's the best. We just have the best combination of talent and good, hardworking people that are about all the right things. So, we don't really expect to go anywhere, but kind of stay where we are, just competing for championships. But it was a beautiful team. We're going to miss them. We said that the year before. How are we going to replace Jordan Hawkins, Andre Jackson, Adama Sanogo? And then, we turned around and had an even better team. So our mindset right now is, obviously enjoy these moments, but really, really working to put together another group of players that could help us do something really, really historic. We just did something historic, though. So really, really historic, like stuff that hasn't been done since UCLA and John Wooden and shit. That's crazy, right? I think that's pretty, and that Chris knows his ball, too. Chris just recognizing, because that's when we knew we had a special team. When we wrapped up the Big East regular season versus Seton Hall at home, and we could have kind of coasted towards the end of the regular season, but we had road games at Marquette and at Providence, and then we had a Villanova game at home, and we absolutely played with a level of desperation like we really hadn't won anything, and that's when you realized that the team was truly special. And then we felt this immediate pressure that we better win the Big East tournament and we better win the national championship because we got the best team in the country. So Chris is a smart-ass basketball guy. That's unbelievable. Thank you. We'll see you next year here.
All right, we have a bell to ring. On your way out of this room at the doors to my right, please grab a coin for yourself, a small token of our appreciation. The four of us are going to lead the way along with other people with a blue stripe. We got to get rolling to the bell. We have some special walkout music for everyone as well. I'll turn it over to the live stream. Thanks, everyone.
Now, we just heard from Chris Taylor and UConn men's basketball coach Dan Hurley, along with so many others, including Governor Lamont, Radinka, UConn's president. And, you know, the sentiment was the same across the board, just how grateful they were to be here. Actually, the coach was saying how he has the best team in the world. Everybody was very thankful to the students, the alumni, the donors, the sponsors, just everybody in the community that they have built to get to this pivotal moment today. But I want to bring Matt back in to continue our conversation. So again, for those of you who are tuning in, Matt Norlander, CBS Sports senior writer who has been covering college basketball for the network for the past 14 seasons. So to pick up where we left off, Matt, after UConn won its latest title, you wrote, quote, "There is Connecticut, then there is a massive gap, and then there is everyone else." How have Dan Hurley and the Huskies created such a competitive gap?
With a truly incredible culture, Dan Hurley, he holds his players accountable to a level that I think is rare in men's college basketball. He does not sugarcoat the recruiting process, and if you want to go play for him, he's actually said this more. He has said this in recent years to me, kind of one-on-one, and now I've seen him drop this reference in multiple interviews lately, where he said, "Listen, if you're coming to store." We're not a major metropolis. You are coming here because you are serious about your college career and about getting to the next level and playing in the NBA. And he has been able to hold his players to account. They buy in. They have a very similar mindset, and that is just outright commitment to the cause. And Hurley lives and breathes it. I'm telling you, every day. After they get done with the New York Stock Exchange stuff today, and when they're heading back to campus later on, Hurley will be as engaged with his program, his team, roster building, as he was the night before the national championship game. He does not have an off switch, for better or for worse, and is why he is elevated to, in my opinion, the appropriate title and status of the best coach running the best program in all of college basketball.
And you know, Matt, you also wrote that a dynasty in modern college basketball starts and likely ends with 2 championships in a row. What makes a three-peat especially challenging in today's era?
Because there are so many changes that come with the roster. So you're referencing my title game column, and I appreciate you doing that. Thank you so much. You know, once upon a time, John Wooden had a UCLA team that was able to peel off 5-6 championships in a row, but that was the outlier. And in the past 4 decades here, we saw Florida win back-to-back championships in 06-07. We saw Duke win back-to-back in 91-92. And then prior to that, the most recent instance of it happening was UCLA. So winning back-to-back championships at the men's college level, that is dynastic. To expect a team to win 3 in a row is just expecting way too much. Now, Hurley and that program are going to try and do it, but he's going to lose so many key players off this roster. Donovan Clingan, Stephon Castle, they're going to be lottery picks. Tristan Newton, Cam Spencer, probably going to be drafted into the 2nd round. Alex Caravan has some real NBA looks as well. So to ask a coach and a program to go 3 years in a row winning the NCAA tournament, which is a crapshoot, even if you're a 1 seed every year, it's a monumental task. I'm not going to say UConn can't do it. I'm saying we haven't seen someone do it since literally John Wooden, the greatest coach in the history of the sport. And with a whole new roster coming in, it will be a massive challenge, but a challenge nonetheless that Dan Hurley will eagerly undertake, and he is already underway here working the transfer portal to beef up that roster.
And an interesting one at that. We're all going to have to tune in to see what happens. Thank you so much, Matt, for joining me.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Now, last week, the New York Stock Exchange hosted another college basketball powerhouse, the South Carolina women's team, which capped off a perfect 38-0 season by winning their 3rd NCAA championship in program history by defeating Caitlin Clark and Iowa. Judy Shaw spoke with the head coach, Dawn Staley, and Camila Cardozo, who was named tournament's most outstanding player and was then selected 3rd overall in the WNBA draft. Here's what Staley had to say about more fans tuning in to the championship game.
Well, 18 million people, it speaks for itself. I mean, the public tuned in and watched, whether they watched the greatness of Caitlin Clark. If so, if they tuned in to watch her, they had to see us, and they had to see the type of team that we had, the collectiveness, the team effort, the chemistry, the great execution on both sides of the basketball. So I think they left with knowing women's basketball is in a great place for it to be a sport. Like, for the longest, we've been fighting just being a sport. Whatever that means, it means the good, the bad, the ugly of a sport is being publicized in a way that that we love it. We do. We love it. We love to be the talked about sport. We love to be the sport that everybody's tuned in to watch for whatever reason. And I think it's a great thing, and it's only going to be moving upwards.
And what was it like for you, Camila, to play that game knowing that there were so many eyes on you in the sport?
I think it's amazing. I think this class of women did a really great job bringing more visibility to women's basketball, and I'm just so proud of every single one of these girls that was part of this season.
Now, Coach, you praised Caitlin Clark for her impact on women's basketball. Tell me, how can such star players shape the future of the sport?
I mean, every sport that you have star players that take their particular sport to the next level. You got the likes of LeBron, you got the likes of Michael Jordan, you got the likes of Megan Rapinoe. Whatever it takes, I think Caitlin's come to us at the incredible right time in order for us to go to the next level. Because sometimes the novelty wears off, and then you need to inject something else that will pull the people in. Caitlin Clark was that for us. And a lot of people think I'm being facetious when I say that. I'm not. I'm all for raising our game to levels in which we have never seen before. Because it's all about the game. It's not just about one player. It's not just about one team. We're at a point where we can celebrate all the storylines of our game.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's been progress in women's sports, but there's more that needs to be done.
There is more history to be done for us, and I can't wait. Like, I do think the decision makers of our game have taken a different leadership role in putting more games out there on television and make it more visible for everyone to see. I see that improving, which, is what we need. We need exposure. We need more sponsorships. We need more competition. Like, we need the competition. We need to create the competition that we create on the court externally, so our game can continue to lift.
We open up the markets. All right, you guys, we are on the trading floor. This is an active trading floor. Look at this crowd right behind me. Just let's get some images right here. All right, they're a little shy, but they're going to get much louder when we open up the U.S. equity markets in just a few minutes. But right now, I want to have a conversation with one of my colleagues, Lance Glenn. Tell everyone what you do here at the NYC and about Inside the Ice House podcast.
Sure. So I am the podcast producer for the Inside the Ice House podcast. We've been doing it for about 6 years, over 400 episodes, and we are excited about the repertoire in our archives and all the great guests that we've had on Inside the Ice House.
And let's talk about Inside the Ice House a little bit more. You're going to be interviewing Dan Hurley a little bit later today. Talk to me about that. How excited are you? Because I know that, this is sort of your wheelhouse. You're very excited about college basketball. So tell me about how you're feeling right now.
I'm so excited to talk to Dan Hurley. I mean, he has built such a gap between UConn and the rest of the college basketball world. And I mean, just having them here at the New York Stock Exchange is so cool, and being able to talk to him about his program, his back-to-back national titles, and everything that comes with UConn basketball. I mean, it's the college basketball capital of the world. What place to be better than Storrs, Connecticut right now, and what man to be better than Dan Hurley?
What better platform to tell those stories other than the epicenter of global financial markets on NYC TV Live and Inside the Ice House podcast. So let's talk about some more notable names who you've had on the podcast.
Sure. So this past week, we released episode 412 with Cassie Krejci. She, of course, with Rent to Kill Initial, talking pest control. It's bug season, and obviously ants, mice, cockroaches, everything's coming out now. Mosquitoes, of course, too. We're speaking to Dan Hurley soon. We're going to be talking to the mayor of Miami-Dade County, Mayor Daniela Levine Cava, in a couple of weeks as well. We're going to be talking to Thomson Reuters CEO Steve Hasker, too. So many great guests to come on the podcast. I'm really excited for everyone to hear what we have to offer in the coming weeks and months.
Now, we have about 30 seconds before we ring the opening bell. Tell me quickly, what has been your favorite story that you've got to talk to people about?
We talked to Jeremy Poincenot a few weeks ago. He's a blind world golf champion. It was just an amazing story. His story of becoming a blind golf champion, it's really special to hear.
All right, now we're going to listen in to the opening bell. We'll be right back. JD Durkin, host at Public.com and CBS News contributor, is joining me now. JD, I love when we have you on. How you doing?
I'm doing great, especially for a day like this. We love this. Shout out UConn, Big East basketball. It's an awesome day here today.
I know, it was definitely electrifying hearing the crowd just chanting UConn, UConn. You know, I love it. But, you know, the markets are now officially opened. You know, we've seen some volatility in recent weeks, especially the uptick that we saw at the beginning of the week. I mean, what do you think is driving this? What do we got?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of analysts would say we were likely due for a pullback. Just look how strong Q1 was across the board for equities. Bit of a good faith pullback for the month of April. I think what we've seen as of late, the last few sessions, Trinity, has been investors buying the dip in tech, and that brings us really to the heart of earnings this week, and all the names we're going to continue to hear. When you get a big pullback from a name like NVIDIA, of course, it's so heavily weighted in such a highly concentrated S&P 500. Of course, we're going to see some selling across the board. I think we saw investors dip into those lower levels, start to buy back up. Helps explain some of the back and forth we've seen, and we could have that the next few sessions as we get a little bit closer to PCE day on Friday.
Now, you mentioned NVIDIA, you mentioned tech, obviously, around earnings. What are some other major storylines that investors are following?
Well, I definitely think those are the big ones, and rightfully so, right? I mean, it's still, we continue to be in this Fed watching state if and when the Fed is going to look to cut interest rates, but there are concerns kind of in the background. We always chat about what's happening with commercial real estate, some other pressure points across the economy. I follow very closely the fact that, lower income households are struggling proportionate to rest of Americans, younger Americans struggling as well. We're seeing auto loan delinquencies, credit card delinquencies. Some of those pressure points working themselves in the background, I think from my reporting are showing people are starting to talk a lot more about them. So the earnings season is definitely worth focus, as is the Fed, but we're certainly keeping an eye on some of those other pressure points across the financial system that could play themselves out in the next few months.
We should be getting more data out on Friday. I mean, how do you think we're going to end the week?
It's PCE day. I mean, listen, if core PCE comes in higher than expected, we could have a big pullback in Friday's session. But you and I talk all the time. Despite all these other inflation gauges that we get, PCE is most important, specifically core PCE. That's still 2.8%. It's closest to the Fed's target. A lot of analysts are expecting that number to come back down, which would be good for the Fed. But if for whatever reason, Trinity, come Friday morning, we see PCE go from, let's say, 2.8 up to 2.9, we could see that pullback in a reaction. But CPI, PPI are very important, but we follow that last inflation reading so closely because we know how closely the Fed uses it, and they will take that highly into account as they make their upcoming interest rate decisions.
A lot of important takeaways right there. JD, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
All right, now we're going to move to a different area on the floor. I'm actually going to bring in another interview, Joe McLean, right now. He is the Chief Growth and Innovation Officer at MAI Capital Management, who is well known as an advisor to some major athletes. Joe, good morning.
Good morning. This is exciting. We lost in 1994 to Arkansas in the Final Four. I would have loved to have had this chance that UConn has today.
Oh, it would have been great to have you here on the floor, but I know that you can't be here in person, but you're joining us all the way from San Francisco, California. I know it's early there, so thank you so much. Let's start by telling our viewers exactly how you represent athletes and how you work with them.
So I come in from the financial advisory standpoint and get them to help them understand what money means to them, how it flows in and out of their life, how to set a budget, how to get money working for you. I never really thought this would have been a big business, but now as you see these contracts even earlier and earlier, not just in the NBA or the NFL, but now in college, if not earlier, these are decisions these young people have to start considering at a much, much younger age.
And how are we... I'm sorry about that. I think there's a little bit of a delay here. So continue what you were saying. Sorry about that, Joe.
No, it's you look at some of these young men that are on the stage and some of the women that performed this year. Some of these financial decisions they have to start making at a much, much earlier age now.
And speaking of financial decisions, how would you say that coaches and schools are going about recruiting in today's landscape?
Everything's changed for better or for worse. A lot of players were thinking through what's the best opportunity to be at a school, but also now this money component is probably trumping everything else. It's less about the long-term opportunities you may have with a university and that program and that network, and more about what's the maximum payout I could have at as fast as possible.
And speaking of maximum payout, are you seeing these student athletes, when they're choosing a school to go to, is the financial obligations, one of their major deciding factors from where you sit?
Well, if we look at the extremes, it is. And that could be a good thing, that could be a bad thing. We'll see in the long term. I think it's important for these young student athletes, no matter how big the money is, to really consider the long-term effects to the decisions you make. But right now, for sure, a lot of the top high-end players are making decisions purely for money.
And what would you say are some, I don't know, just key pieces of advice that you would give to athletes in this industry when it comes to making money and financial decisions?
I know it may be hard to understand early on at a young age, but I would say don't make decisions purely for money. Think through the professional locker room that you want to create outside of the basketball court or outside of the football field or the soccer field. Think through the other types of people you want to surround yourself with in terms of being professional. And at the end of the day, focus on what your passion is. If it's playing basketball, if it's playing football, focus on that excellence and the money will chase you. Don't just focus on the money.
A lot of key takeaways there. Thank you so much, Joe, for joining me.
Thank you. Have a great morning.
All right, now we're going to take a quick break and listen to a message from our parent company. We'll be right back.
Together, we built something truly beautiful.
It takes years of dedication to get to this milestone.
New York Stock Exchange is the symbol of what America's all about, the potential of an American dream.
It is day one. A lot of work has happened to lead to this historic moment.
The only way you can move a society forward is a true expression of freedom.
All right, I am joined with a man who does not need any introduction, but Dan, it's great to have you.
Yeah, it's awesome to be here. A lot of Connecticut love in here, a lot of UConn Huskies.
The best team in the country, I heard you were saying in the boardroom when you were giving such a sentimental speech, thanking your wife, the alumni, the students, just everybody. How significant is it being here, ringing the opening bell for a celebration like this?
Yeah, just the history and tradition of UConn and everything that we've accomplished in basketball. You know, we call ourselves the basketball capital of the world, and I think you know, we prove it every March and April by delivering national championships. And this year's team was one of the best, you know, the best teams in college basketball in the last 25 years, and maybe the best team that UConn's put on the court on the men's side.
What were some of the most memorable moments, and what stood out about this year's team?
Just the way, the relentlessness of the group, and just the competitive excellence, setting records for most wins in a regular season with 37, most Big East wins, obviously blowing, you know, dominating the NCAA tournament the way we did, but just a daily basis, the work the team put in, how we prepared, and then how the group sacrificed to be a dominant team.
And you know, you touched on this earlier, but what makes UConn such a desirable destination for recruits?
Well, it's a world-class university, and it's just amazing people at the school, and you know, it attracts serious people. I don't think you don't make a mistake when you pick UConn. You pick UConn for a reason. You believe in the school community. You believe in the, you know, in the athletic programs or the quality of your education. You don't get blown away by the weather. You know, you pick a place like UConn for the right reasons, so it attracts serious people.
Tell me about what sort of adjustments that you had to make when it came to the name likeness era.
Yeah, I just think that you have to embrace it. I think there's been a lot of coaches that have failed to embrace the portal and the NIL, and you have to be able to adjust and adapt. And you know, obviously, players now today are getting what they deserve in terms of those things, and I think it gives us the ability to even hold them more accountable because of all the resources that we invest in them. That we can have an expectation where they could produce even more for the university.
And tell me how you keep the team hungry, especially, you know, that they've accomplished the first three-peat in over 50 years.
Yeah, with any high-achieving person or somebody that dreams of great success, the goalposts are always moving. So you get one national championship, you want the next. You win the Big East regular season, and all you can think about is the conference tournament. So, you know, it's great to have won it, but we quickly turn the page, and we're thinking, what do we got to do to get a three-peat?
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Dan. It was great speaking with you.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, now the Harlem Globetrotters were actually recently here at the New York Stock Exchange, so let's take a look at that video, and we'll be right back. Joining me now is Radenka Merrick, president for the University of Connecticut, and I also have a special guest, the mascot. Good morning, Radenka.
Good morning. Good morning.
How are you feeling right now, being here, celebrating with your team, supporters, friends, family, here at the NYC?
It's amazing to be back. So we were last year, we are here again, and we are hoping to be back next year. So it's fabulous.
Now, you know, UConn men, they've won 6 titles. The women have won 11 titles. So what would you say makes your school the hot spot for sports?
We are the basketball capital of the world. It's commitment of our coaches, it's commitment of our staff, it's commitment of everybody that we want to excel and stay the best basketball school. But we are also great academics. So
how has all the success that UConn and the teams have achieved really, helped all the programs overall, helped the university from your standpoint?
It promotes universities, so everybody knows about UConn. We are on the national stage. We are ranked number 9 in Wall Street Journal. Everybody can see that. We have record high of applications, 58,000 applications for 6,000 slots. So it's a great brand for our university, excellence of our basketball team, but also excellence in academic and other things that we do.
Thank you so much, Radenka, for joining me. Have a good morning.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, I am going to bring in the governor of Connecticut, Governor Lamont. We heard him speak earlier in the boardroom. Hello, Mr. Governor. How are you?
Nice to see you again.
It's very nice to see you too, having you back here at the NYC. How are you feeling?
I love it when I came in here this morning, it said, good to see you again, Governor. I said, yeah, I look forward to seeing you next year, too.
Yes, we expect you that you're going to be here next year also. So, tell me, last year you visited us for 2 national championship celebrations. Now you're back with us here today. I mean, tell me about the significance in that.
Look, I can tell you as a governor what UConn means to us. When the UConn Huskies win, we feel like winners. We had thousands of people traveling, cheering them on. More of our graduates want to stay in Connecticut. I think a lot of that is Husky pride.
Yeah, tell me more about that. How does the excitement of these winning of championships really radiate across the whole state of Connecticut?
And beyond. We love the fact that everybody's talking about Connecticut, little old Connecticut, for at least a week or so, and what that meant.
And speaking of your state's universities, how does the public sector, universities, and private sectors keep Connecticut pushing through its weight in entrepreneurship and commerce?
Again, I think winning gives you confidence in life. And when it comes to business, we have more new business startups than ever before in the state of Connecticut, more people moving into the state of Connecticut as opposed to the other direction. And I think UConn's a big piece of that. And by the way, it's a great academic institution going this way in the rankings every year.
And as the governor of Connecticut, talk to me about your biggest initiatives for 2024.
Housing. Housing. You want to move to Connecticut, but if I don't have a place for you to live, you're going to go somewhere else. So I've got to build more housing for young people in our cities.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Governor. It was great to speak with you.
Nice to see you.
Okay. Now we're going to toss it to a word from the New York Stock Exchange, and we'll be right back. And now I'm going to bring in Ben Portnoy, college sports reporter for Sports Business Journal. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on NYC TV Live.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So I want to get down to business just right away. You know, what new opportunities do UConn players have after being a part of such a championship? What is the next steps from your vantage point?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think for any university, right, fundraising is a big deal in this day and age, especially. But I think that when it comes specifically to the team, NIL is going to be the first and foremost thing that people talk about, name, image, and likeness, and payment for players and things like that. Now, you know, I spoke with some of the people from the NIL collectives at UConn in the last couple weeks about this. There's some fundraising campaigns they've got sort of in the works to kind of come off the heels of this. And in so many words, it's easier to fundraise when you're winning. So I would expect a lot on that front from the collectives and from the university at large as well.
Let's talk about the business angle here. How is UConn benefiting from a business standpoint, obviously, with championships and achievements like this?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's like I said, it's as simple as, you know, when you're winning, it's easier to fundraise, right? And I think that's a big piece of it right now in college sports. I think that, you know, the landscape has changed so much because college athletes are able to benefit off their name, image, and likeness, and that creates, you know, financial opportunities for them. And when you've got a winning program, you know, that's an opportunity for these guys to capitalize off of that. You know, I was speaking to one of the folks who runs one of the collectives, and they said, you know, we might be winning, but we want a three-peat. And the more you win, the more it takes to keep guys and to bring in guys and all of those things. So I think that when you look at the business opportunities here, I think it's whether it's through bigger brands, through local brands, through, you know, like I said, through the collective that they help set things up for athletes. I think all of those pieces tie into what you can sort of benefit off of from a national championship like this.
And let's talk about media rights. I mean, we're hearing a lot of buzz around this, especially when it comes to the Big East Conference. What are you hearing?
Yeah, my understanding is that the Big East is moving forward. They're closing in on things. I think that, you know, as a lot of us have discussed and talked about, I think Fox Sports is certainly in the running. I mean, there's been a long-standing relationship there between them and the Big East, and it's sort of this modern iteration. We'll see what the timeline looks like, but I do think that things are moving along, and the expectation is that, you know, something will get done, you know, at some point in the near future. At least that's the hope, I think, from all parties.
Do you think that these back-to-back titles will give UConn any leverage?
I think so. I mean, look, it certainly helps the league. I think that the Big East is in a super fascinating position, right? Because there's not, UConn aside, I guess, football is not really attached to the Big East, right? At least in this modern iteration. And I think that because of that, you've got a basketball-only league that is trying to navigate a media rights market that's pretty volatile at the moment. It is not paying out in kind of the same way it was maybe even 3, 5, 10 years ago. And so because of that, I think it adds a wrinkle to this. But that said, the Big East has had a lot of success. I think it's, 4 national championships in the last 10 years, if not more. If my math's right there. But you look at those things, and coming off the heels of back-to-back national championships, the league's been super strong. Seton Hall doing what it did in the NIT as well. Like, all of those are bullet points, I think, for the Big East and Big East officials in these negotiations. And again, right, when things are good and you're winning and all of that, you have a lot of leverage. And I do think that it adds to the equation, and it shows that this is a really, really strong basketball product, and that there's an audience for that.
A lot of important points right there. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me. Thanks so much.
All right, we are going to toss it to a quick video. We'll be right back.
Connecting to opportunity is just part of the hustle.
Opportunity is using data to create a competitive advantage.
It's raising capital to help companies change the world.
It's making complicated financial concepts seem simple.
Opportunity is making the dream of home ownership a reality.
Writing new rules and redefining the game.
And driving the world forward to a greener energy future.
Opportunity is setting a goal.
And charting a course to get there.
Sometimes the only thing standing between you and opportunity is someone who can make the connection.
At ICE, we connect people to opportunity.
Chris Taylor, Global Head of Advisory for the NYSC. You heard him in the boardroom. You saw him on the podium. He's joining me now. Good morning.
Good morning. Kind of a good day.
Kind of.
Us UConn Huskies.
Kind of a good day. I mean, did you hear that chant?
It was pretty awesome. Yeah, I knew it was coming. That's kind of what we do.
You guys were over here like planning it ahead of time?
No, it's just what we do.
That's what we do here at the NYSC. Speaking of that, let's talk about the significance. How special is it to have UConn here today celebrating with us?
So, for me personally, it's very special. I grew up in the state of Connecticut. I'm an alumnus of the University of Connecticut, and they represent all of us who are from the state, who live in the state now. So, championships are supposed to be few and far between. That's not the case with UConn. And so we become a little confident, maybe overconfident, some would say, but ringing a bell like this just to let people who are part of the UConn community come into the building and celebrate with them is really, really special. With all that said, every bell every day here is special. We love to celebrate the achievements of our listed companies, and that's what keeps us going here at the New York Stock Exchange. But we love celebrating champions as well. Last week or the week before, we had Dawn Staley and Camila Cardoso from the University of South Carolina women's team come and ring the bell to celebrate their great championship. We had Quinnipiac men's hockey last year to celebrate their NCAA championship. So it's not just about UConn, it's about celebrating greatness with our listed companies and then with great sport teams like the Huskies.
And you said it best, it keeps us busy here with over 2,400 listed companies, and that list keeps on growing. Thank you.
So yes, we have some IPOs this week, we had some last week, so let's keep the IPO market strong.
Well, thank you, Chris. Thank you all for tuning in to NYSC TV Live. I'm Trinity Chavez, and we'll see you next time.
Iconic brands speak for themselves. The strongest brands stand the test of time. We are so excited to welcome you to our community. Today is all about you.
We've never lost sight of what we're trying to do and deliver that mission.
Going through this experience with my partners and my families has been unbelievable.
We imagined something that didn't exist yet, and we believed that we could do it.
You're going to look back on this accomplishment as one of the finest you've ever done.
I want you to know that the best is yet to come.
Just a few minutes, we'll go downstairs to the legendary New York Stock Exchange trading floor to ring the opening bell. The history here, the tradition, it's just incredible for us to be at this moment.